License and registration?
Yes, officer.
Where are you coming from this late?
Just heading home.
You live around here?
Yes, sir.
People like you always out riding around this time of night.
I'm just going home.
Step out of the car.
Why am I being asked
If you're
to
not
step
hiding
out?
anything, step
I'm
out of the
not hiding
vehicle. We'll see
anything.
about that.
A quiet Atlanta street. 2 in the morning. A man sitting in his own car, doing absolutely nothing wrong. And a rookie officer who had no idea, not one idea, who he was walking up to. The Bodycam catches everything. It catches the moment the patrol cruiser rolls to a stop behind a parked vehicle on a residential Atlanta street at 2:07 in the morning. It catches the door swinging open. It catches the officer stepping out, posture rigid, flashlight already raised, jaw already set in a way that says the conclusion has been reached before the conversation begins. The street is quiet. Not abandoned, quiet. The kind of quiet that belongs to a neighborhood at rest. Damp pavement still holds the faint sheen of an earlier drizzle. Somewhere past the corner, crickets keep their rhythm. A porch light 2 houses down flickers intermittently, casting pale gold across a row of parked cars. Inside the vehicle in question, a man sits with both hands resting open on the steering wheel. The window is already down. He is a black man in his early 40s, dressed in a charcoal button-down, slacks, and dress shoes, the kind of attire that suggests a long professional day recently concluded. He does not reach for anything. He does not move. His posture communicates one thing clearly: he has been through this before, and he intends to survive it. The rookie officer approaches like the car is a crime scene. Flashlight beams sweeping the interior before he reaches the door. He taps the glass twice with the heel of his hand, harder than the situation requires, softer than he would like to appear. He demands license and registration without greeting, without identification, without the basic procedural courtesy that is supposed to open every stop. The driver nods slowly and begins to comply. The officer does not wait. He redirects immediately, posture tightening, voice dropping into the register of manufactured authority. He wants to know where the man is coming from. The tone is not curious. It is prosecutorial. Lateness itself is framed as evidence of wrongdoing, as though the hour alone is a confession requiring explanation. The driver keeps both hands visible. He answers without hesitation. Heading home, he conveys calmly. 2 blocks over. He has lived in this neighborhood. He knows these streets. The officer angles his flashlight into the back seat. Then the passenger floor. Then the center console. His eyes move the way assumptions move, looking not for what is there, but for confirmation of what he has already decided. He runs the plates. Dispatch comes back clean within 90 seconds. Registered. Local address confirmed. No warrants. No flags. Nothing. The officer does not relax. If anything, the clean return seems to frustrate him, as though the absence of evidence is itself suspicious. He circles the vehicle slowly, one hand resting on his belt, the other still holding the flashlight like a prop in a performance. Then he orders the man out of the car. No explanation. No articulable cause. Just the command, delivered with the weight of someone who has confused a uniform with a verdict. The officer gestures toward the pavement, and repeats the instruction, his posture broadening as he does, filling the space between himself and the vehicle with the architecture of assumed authority. The driver complies. Slowly. Deliberately. Both hands rise to shoulder height before his door even opens fully. He steps onto the pavement, dress shoes meeting damp asphalt, and positions himself near the rear quarter panel without being told. His movements are measured. Controlled. The body language of a man who understands exactly what is happening and has made a tactical decision not to escalate it. The officer conducts a pat-down. Finds nothing. He then questions why the car was parked at that location, his tone implying that stopping 2 blocks from home at this hour is itself an act requiring justification. The driver responds evenly, explaining that he had pulled over briefly before the final stretch. His account is clear. Consistent. Calm. The officer nods, not in acceptance, but in the performative way of someone already building a different narrative. Then comes the language. framed around late nights and patterns and the kind of generalizations that hide behind the word experience. The officer implies that people of the driver's description always seem to have reasons for being out at this hour, as though the hour itself belongs to some and not to others. The driver does not react visibly, but the Bodycam records it. Timestamp, decibel level, exact phrasing, all of it written into the footage like ink into paper. The officer opens the car door without consent. Conducts a visual sweep of the interior. Finds nothing. He straightens slowly, recalibrates, and pivots to a new line. The driver, he claims, matches a description. A vague one. The kind that cannot be verified, cannot be challenged, and exists primarily to justify what has already been done. The driver asks, calmly and clearly, what description? What incident? What basis? The officer does not answer. 37 seconds of silence stretch between them on that wet Atlanta street, and it is into that silence that the first backup unit rolls. Then a second. Red and blue light washes across the parked cars lining both sides of the block. 2 veteran officers step out, reading the scene before they reach it. They look at the driver, hands still visible, posture still composed. They look at the rookie, shifting weight, jaw tight, explanation already forming. They look at each other. One of them walks to the cruiser and pulls up the stop record on the mobile terminal. He reads it. Reads it again. His expression does not change, but something behind his eyes does. He keys his radio. The humid Atlanta air sits heavy and still around all of them as dispatch begins to respond, and whatever comes through that channel lands on the veteran's face like something he did not expect. He looks at the driver one more time. Then he looks at the rookie. And the night, which had been quiet, becomes something else entirely. If you believe a man should never have to prove his humanity just to drive home at night, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. Your support tells this story it deserves to be heard. Now, let us get back to that street. The veteran officer does not raise his voice. He does not have to. He moves to the rookie with the deliberate economy of someone who has cleaned up enough bad stops to recognize one immediately. He speaks low, not for the driver's benefit, but because what he is saying does not need an audience. He wants to understand the basis of the stop, the reason for the removal, the justification for the search. The rookie offers what he has been rehearsing since the backup lights appeared. The driver had been evasive, his behavior suspicious, a vague description from a prior call floating somewhere in the background of his explanation. The words come out practiced but hollow, the kind of language that sounds procedural until someone with real experience starts pulling at the threads. The veteran pulls. Dispatch has already relayed the plate return, clean, local, no history. The stop log shows no active description matching this block, this vehicle, or this time frame. The driver has not raised his voice once. Has not made a single movement that could be reasonably interpreted as threatening. The veteran notes all of this without drama, cataloging the scene the way a surgeon reads a chart, not emotionally, but with the precision of someone who will be held responsible for what comes next. The driver, still positioned near the rear of his vehicle, provides his account again when addressed directly by the veteran. His version is consistent, detailed, and calm. He conveys that his work involves security coordination, downtown operations, a late debrief that ran longer than expected. He references federal ties without elaborating, measured disclosure, the kind practiced by someone accustomed to operating within systems that require discretion. The rookie, standing slightly apart now, processes this the way young officers process things that threaten their narrative. He dismisses it. Visibly. The kind of dismissal that registers on a Bodycam because it is written across the face before the mind can neutralize it. The veteran does not dismiss it. He asks for credentials. What follows is unhurried. The driver moves to his vehicle with permission, retrieves a document wallet from the interior breast pocket of his jacket, and presents its contents methodically beneath the beam of the cruiser's mounted light. The veteran takes the credentials. Examines them. His expression shifts in the way that experienced professionals' expressions shift when something unexpected enters the equation. Not surprise exactly, but a recalibration. A quiet, internal adjustment to a new reality. He hands the credentials to his partner. His partner goes still. A verification call goes out on a secure channel, not the standard dispatch line, but one that requires a different kind of clearance to reach. The two veterans exchange nothing while they wait. The rookie watches them and understands, on some animal level, that the momentum of the night has shifted, though he cannot yet name the direction. The channel returns confirmation. The man standing on that damp Atlanta street, hands composed at his sides, dressed in a charcoal button-down at 2:30 in the morning, is Commander John McGlynn. Federal Interagency Security Field Commander. High clearance. Active assignment. A man whose operational rank places him several tiers above anything this precinct has ever processed on a residential stop. The rookie does not move. But something in him does, some internal structure, carefully assembled over months of training and misapplied confidence, begins to give way at its foundation. It is into this silence that the Federal Liaison Unit arrives. The vehicle is unmarked but unmistakable, the kind of clean, dark sedan that announces itself through what it withholds rather than what it displays. The senior officer who emerges does so without urgency. He surveys the scene in a single, practice sweep. His eyes find McGlynn. Something crosses his face, recognition, and something adjacent to relief. He moves directly to the commander and offers a salute. Crisp. Formal. Unreserved. The two backup officers mirror it a moment later. The rookie does not move. The silence that follows that salute is the loudest thing that has happened on this street all night. It lasts perhaps 4 seconds. It feels considerably longer. In those seconds, every assumption the rookie brought to this stop, every profiling instinct dressed in procedural language, every fragment of bias passed off as experience, hangs suspended in the humid air, fully visible, fully recorded, fully without defense. The Federal Liaison does not salute and move on. He turns his attention to the circumstances of the stop with the methodical focus of someone who has been briefed, or who is quickly becoming briefed, on exactly what unfolded here. He examines the stop log. He reviews the removal order. He notes the search, conducted without consent, without cause, without a single articulable fact to justify it. He notes the language used. The profiling phrase now exists not just in memory but in timestamp and audio file, captured by the Bodycam still running on the rookie's chest. The rookie stares at the ground. The liaison does not raise his voice either. He does not need to. The Bodycam is doing all the speaking that matters. Right here, before this goes any further, it is worth pausing on something. That Bodycam, still running on this rookie's chest, is about to become the most important piece of evidence in a story much larger than this street. Do you think Bodycams are the ultimate equalizer in encounters like this one? Drop a yes or no in the comments. Or tell us what you think it actually takes to level a playing field this uneven. Keep that conversation going, because it matters. The liaison closes the review of the stop log and addresses the assembled officers with the flat clarity of someone delivering a verdict rather than an opinion. There was no probable cause for the initial stop. There was no justification for the removal. The search was conducted in violation of established procedure and constitutional threshold. All of it, every word, every movement, every second of the encounter, is preserved on Bodycam footage that has already been flagged for departmental review. McGlynn, for his part, has said nothing throughout the liaison's assessment. He stands slightly apart, watching with the patience of a man who knew how this would resolve before the backup units arrived. The liaison turns to him, exchanges a few words in the low register of professionals who do not need to perform their authority for an audience, and then formally clears him to depart. McGlynn retrieves his credentials, returns them to the interior pocket of his jacket, straightens his collar, walks to his vehicle without looking at the rookie. Not from contempt. The absence of that glance carries its own message. He does not need to acknowledge the man who stopped him. The system will do that. The cruiser pulls away. Taillights fade around the corner. The rookie stands in the dissolving red and blue wash of the remaining units. The veteran officers have gone quiet. The liaison is on his radio. The Bodycam is still running. And somewhere in the city, a process has already begun that the rookie does not yet have a name for, but will. The liaison does not leave when McGlynn does. He remains on that Atlanta street with the posture of someone who has arrived at the beginning of something, not the end. He requests the rookie's badge number, his unit assignment, his supervisor's name. He does not write any of it down himself. He speaks it into a recorder, quietly and precisely, adding it to a record that has already been opened before the taillights of McGlynn's vehicle disappeared around the corner. The sergeant arrives within 12 minutes. He pulls up behind the remaining cruisers, steps out, and reads the scene before anyone speaks to him. He has been given a preliminary summary over the radio, enough to understand the gravity of what he is walking into, not enough to fully prepare for it. He walks the stop with the liaison from the point of initial approach to the moment of the unauthorized search, retracing each decision the rookie made and holding it up against the standard of articulable cause. At each step, the standard comes back empty. No movement that justified removal. No observable indicator that warranted a search. No active description that matched this driver, this vehicle, this location, this time. Nothing. The stop, examined in sequence, is a series of assumptions dressed in the grammar of procedure, and the Bodycam footage has recorded every one of them in order. The rookie stands to the side through all of it. He has stopped trying to construct alternative narratives. There is nothing left to construct. What neither he nor the sergeant nor the backup officers know, what the liaison has known since before he arrived on this street, is what Commander John McGlynn was doing in Atlanta at this hour. Not just tonight, but for the past 7 weeks. 6 floors above the downtown corridor, in a federal field office leased under a logistics consulting name, McGlynn had spent the better part of 2 years building a case. Not loudly. Not with press briefings or interagency announcements. Quietly, the way structural investigations are conducted when the target is a structure and not a single actor. The Atlanta precinct at the center of the file had accumulated 38 formal complaints over a 26-month period. Racial profiling. Unlawful stops. Unwarranted searches. The language across the complaints was different, but the architecture was the same, a pattern repeated across shifts, across blocks, across seasons. A pattern that precinct leadership had reviewed, acknowledged internally, and then buried. Not through oversight. Through decision. The complaints had been marked resolved. Closed. Filed in a system where closed meant invisible. Victims had been told their cases lacked sufficient evidence. Officers implicated had received no formal notation in their records. The machine had processed the grievances and returned them as silence. McGlynn's unit had spent those 2 years reconstructing what the machine had erased. Cross-referencing incident reports with complaint timelines. Identifying the officers who appeared in multiple accounts. Mapping the supervisory chain that signed off on the closures. Building document by document the architecture of institutional cover. His late-night return from a briefing on exactly that investigation, a briefing at which new evidentiary threads had been confirmed, had taken him down a residential block 2 stops from his own address. And a rookie officer, operating on assumption and the vocabulary of bias, had pulled him over. The Bodycam captured everything. Back on the street, the liaison discloses this, not fully, not yet, but enough. He conveys to the sergeant that McGlynn's presence in the area was not incidental. That his late-night movement was operational. That the stop conducted by the rookie has now intersected with an active federal investigation in a way that fundamentally changes the nature of the Bodycam footage. The footage is no longer just documentation of a single bias stop. It is corroborating evidence. It is a live example of the exact conduct that 38 buried complaints had described. It is, in the language of federal investigation, the kind of material that transforms a file from compelling to airtight. The sergeant absorbs this slowly. He looks at the rookie. Then at the cruiser where the Bodycam footage is already being remotely flagged. Then at the ground. The administrative machinery moves quickly once it begins. A Bodycam audit is initiated before the sergeant's vehicle leaves the block. The footage is pulled, time-stamped, and forwarded to 3 separate offices simultaneously: Internal Affairs, the Federal Liaisons Unit, and the office managing the broader investigation. Every word the rookie used that night is transcribed. Every second of the unauthorized search is documented. The profiling phrase appears in the transcript in plain text, without softening, without context that might dilute it. In the days that follow, the rookie's file is reviewed against his full-stop history. The pattern that emerges is not dramatic. It is not a career of spectacular misconduct. It is something quieter and more damaging, a consistent, low-level practice of stops that cluster around assumption rather than observation. Enough to establish tendency. Enough to contextualize the footage. Enough to confirm that what happened on that street was not an aberration. The formal suspension comes on a Tuesday. Badge and sidearm surrendered before noon. In a review room 3 floors up, a panel of investigators watches the Bodycam footage in its entirety without commentary. When the screen goes dark, the room is quiet for a long time. Then someone marks the timestamp of the profiling language and adds it to a growing exhibit list that bears the investigation's case number, a number that, until this week, this precinct had no idea existed. McGlynn, at his downtown field office, receives a copy of the footage summary and adds it to a folder that is almost ready to close. He does not dwell on it. He moves to the next item in the file. The work continues. The work has always continued. But the weight of what that street captured, the stillness of a man who did not raise his voice, did not escalate, did not resist, and still handed an entire corrupt system the instrument of its own dismantling, settles into the record quietly. The way truth always does. 6 weeks after the stop, the rookie sits in a classroom. The room is beige. The chairs are the stackable kind. A projector screen at the front displays the department's procedural code in bullet points, the same code the rookie certified he understood before he ever put on a uniform. Around him sit 4 other officers, all at different stages of the same process, all navigating the same uncomfortable distance between what they thought they knew and what the record shows. The Bodycam footage runs at 9:15 in the morning. There is no narration added. No commentary over the audio. Just the footage, exactly as recorded, the tap of the flashlight, the unnecessary sweep of the beam, the unauthorized search, the phrase that has now been cited in 11 separate case documents. The rookie watches himself from across the room and understands, in a way he did not understand on the night itself, the full dimension of what he did. Not just the procedural violations, those had been clear for weeks. What the footage makes undeniable, in the flat morning light of a classroom, is the distance between what he believed he was doing and what the camera recorded him doing. Those are not always the same thing. He is learning this now. The review board had issued its termination recommendation 2 weeks prior. It was ratified without dissent. His law enforcement certification has been flagged, triggering mandatory retraining requirements before any future application to a credentialing agency can be considered. He is here not as an officer. He is here as a civilian navigating a professional consequence that extends well beyond a single night's decision. The instructor does not name him by name, does not reference the specific footage. The case has been anonymized for departmental training purposes, but everyone in the room knows. The city knows. The department knows. Some stories are too structurally significant to remain fully anonymous regardless of the measures taken. The federal indictments come down on a Thursday. 3 precinct commanders. 1 administrative captain. A civilian records coordinator who had been processing complaint closures for 19 months under direct instruction. The charges include obstruction, civil rights violations, and conspiracy to suppress official records. The indictments do not read like headlines, they read like the conclusion of an accounting. Systematic, evidenced, and without rhetorical flourish. The kind of document that took 2 years to build and 30 seconds to file. The precinct is placed under federal consent decree. An oversight panel convenes within the week. External monitors are assigned to review every stop, search, and arrest record generated by the department for the following 18 months. Enhanced training protocols are mandated across all active ranks, not optional professional development, but required certification before any officer can resume patrol authority. Bodycam protocols are revised. Footage is now automatically flagged for supervisory review on any stop that results in vehicle exit without immediate arrest or citation. The building is the same building. The shifts run the same hours. But the internal architecture of accountability has been structurally redesigned in ways that cannot be undone by the next administration or the next precinct commander. McGlynn does not appear at the press briefing announcing the indictments. He is not named in any of the public documents. His role in the investigation is listed in federal filings under a designation that means very little to anyone without the appropriate clearance to contextualize it. He has already moved to the next file. There are other precincts, other complaint patterns, other buried records awaiting the kind of patient, unhurried reconstruction that his unit specializes in. He passes through Atlanta once more, 3 months later, for a follow-up briefing. He drives the same route home afterward. The street where the stop occurred is quiet. The porch light that flickered that night has been replaced. The pavement is dry. There is nothing on that block that suggests anything significant ever happened there, which is, in its own way, exactly as it should be. The significance was never in the street. It was in the footage. In the record. In the 38 complaints that were retrieved from a closed file and added to an active one. In the careful, unremarkable work of building a case that could survive a courtroom, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. The rookie completes his retraining coursework over 11 weeks. He learns the legal threshold for articulable suspicion. He learns the difference between behavioral indicators and demographic assumption. He learns, in the dry procedural language of certification curriculum, what his instructors have known for years, that bias does not announce itself. It operates through the gaps between what a person believes they are doing and what the record shows they actually did. Closing those gaps requires a specific kind of honesty, the kind that is very difficult to develop in a classroom, and nearly impossible to develop without one. He does not return to law enforcement. The Atlanta street returns to its rhythms. Crickets at night. Children in the morning. The ordinary texture of a neighborhood that does not know it was briefly the site of something federal investigators will reference in training materials for years. The quiet is not the quiet of nothing happening. It is the quiet of something resolved, imperfectly, incompletely, but with enough structural weight to make the next version of that night harder to bury. Somewhere in a federal field office, a file closes. Another one opens. The work continues. It always does. Not because justice is inevitable, but because some people have decided to make it their method. Quietly. Procedurally. Without spectacle. One stop, one timestamp, one piece of unimpeachable footage at a time. The Bodycam had been running all along. It recorded everything.